Tonight we have Adrienne Pullins, who is a dietitian at Hy-Vee in the Northland, who is going to present creating heart healthy meals. So she is going to give you options when you're shopping and help you figure out what is a good choice for heart healthy and what is a choice you should probably limit. So, Adrienne, I will go ahead and hand it over.
All right, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for joining us. Like she said, my name is Adrienne Pullins. I'm at the Hy-Vee on Berry Road by Zona Rosa. And so creating heart healthy meals begins with your shopping trip. And like she said, kind of figuring out what to look for, what to avoid. And so that's what we're going to do, kind of a virtual store tour. Store tours are one of my favorite things that I do here at Hy-Vee. It's where I typically walk through the store with a customer and, talk about foods appropriate for whatever topic they're looking for. In tonight's case, heart healthy meals. And just about every single time a person leaves after meeting with me, they've learned some new products they didn't know existed. They usually tell me they feel a little more comfortable with what to cook. And so hopefully by the end of tonight, you guys will too. So obviously virtual is not quite the same as being hands-on, but it's a great way to reach so many people. So, all right. So why follow a heart healthy diet? There could be many reasons that someone might choose to do that. Maybe you want to lower your blood pressure, lower your cholesterol, prevent plaque buildup in the arteries, prevent inflammation, preventing stroke or other cardiac type events. And one I left off actually is having a family history of heart disease. So even if you don't have any abnormal numbers or labs or anything like that, but you know that family members have had heart disease, I think following a heart healthy diet is always a good way to continue preventing heart disease in yourself. So just remember a heart healthy diet pattern along with regular exercise, not smoking, managing stress, and staying regular with your yearly checkups and lab work can help manage or prevent heart disease. So lots of factors that can go into our heart health. Obviously nutrition is my forte, so but there's other things that you guys can do to keep your heart healthy. All right, today's focus, I'm going to focus on foods to improve cholesterol and lower blood pressure, just because those are generally two fairly common conditions that many people might have, and so we can talk about ways to work on both of those. So some of the key nutrients I'm going to be mentioning throughout the presentation: healthy or unsaturated fats is the technical term, fiber, reducing saturated fats, which are kind of the bad fats, sodium, increasing potassium, and then some antioxidants. And if you have questions, put them in the chat box. We're going to wait till the end to answer questions, but put them in the chat box and then we'll get to them at the end. So, all right, first, before we go on the tour, I just want to look at the nutrition facts label real quick. So that way, when I'm talking about certain things, you know where you can identify those on your food labels. So first of all, at the top, you do want to be sure that you know what serving size your food is talking about, or your what serving size this is referring to. And then we've got total fat, saturated fat, which I mentioned is kind of the bad fat. Trans fat is also a bad fat. And some labels, not all of them, it's not consistent, but some labels do list the unsaturated fats. You'll see monounsaturated fat or polyunsaturated fat. So those are, I like when those are able to be on there, just because it kind of shows you more about the types of fats in the food. A little further down is sodium. I like to look at the milligrams of sodium. I know a lot of people I work with look at the percentage. So whichever way just kind of relates to connecting those numbers is totally fine. And then since I'm going to talk about fiber, it is down here. Dietary fiber is under the carbohydrate section. So 4 grams in this item. So just wanted to show that so you can typically see where things are on the label. Fairly new, there is now potassium listed on the label. So that's kind of helpful for people who are wanting to try to increase that, and we'll talk about that later. So, all right, let's go shopping. Today, we're not gonna hit the whole store, but we're gonna hit produce, meat and seafood, some of the inner aisles, and then stop by the frozen department also. All right, so first of all is produce department. So we probably aren't surprised that this is one of our stops, since you know, these are just our naturally healthy foods here with our fruits and vegetables. So some of the key nutrients here in the produce department: fiber, potassium, vitamin C. Several antioxidants and phytochemicals are in fruits and vegetables that are specific to heart health, being lycopene, which is found in red fruits and vegetables, so like tomatoes, watermelon, things like that. And then anthocyanins, they are in dark red, purple, and blue fruits and vegetables, so like your red grapes, blueberries, cherries, things like that. And those, like I said, 2 specific antioxidants have been connected to improving heart health. So it's just important to eat the rainbow. You may have heard that slogan over the years, but trying to get lots of different colors in our fruits and vegetables, because those will give us different antioxidants and phytochemicals, as opposed to just eating, you know, only green or only red or something like that. You want to get a wide variety. Also in the produce department, we've got a good unsaturated fat source being avocados. And then one last thing I'm going to show you here in the produce department is how to flavor without the salt, which can be very important in lowering our blood pressure. All right, so fun with fiber here in the produce department. So fiber has a lot of important functions. For heart disease, it kind of helps. Think of it like a broom. It kind of helps to sweep out some of the plaque and some of the fat that's built up, so it can help prevent some of that plaque buildup in our arteries. So it's very important for heart disease, lowering cholesterol. It can really lower the LDL, the bad cholesterol. In addition to heart disease, it's helpful for blood sugar management, keeping us full, so that can be good for like weight management and things like that. So lots of wonderful benefits for fiber. It's really one of those things I encourage as much as I can. So here with fruits and vegetables, these are some of our top sources. So I won't really talk about each individual item specifically, but just wanted to give you kind of the top list. So we've got artichokes, berries. So blackberries and raspberries are a little higher than like blueberries or strawberries. 1 cup of raspberries has 8 grams of fiber in it. And our daily goal recommendation for fiber is about 25 grams per day. So that's something to strive for, 25 grams per day if you're not hitting that yet. But those berries can give you a pretty good chunk of that daily recommendation. Pears and apples, and then potatoes. So all 3 of those things, what they have in common is that they have a nice peeling that we typically will eat. So a lot of the fiber and some of the other nutrients are found in the peel or near the peel. So anytime you have a chance to eat something with the skin on it, I definitely encourage that. Avocados, I didn't put that on there, but avocados are another great source of fiber. Bananas actually have fiber in them. So sometimes bananas got kind of on that list of things, fruits to avoid and things like that, but it actually has some great nutrients and great fiber. Brussels sprouts, broccoli, and cauliflower. So they are kind of in that cruciferous vegetable group, but they're also great sources of fiber. And then oranges actually have some good fiber. So what I'd recommend with these is just trying to take this top list and see how many you can work in through the week. Maybe try one of these a day or more, at least, to up your fiber intake. All right, so for potassium, when we're looking for sources of potassium, first of all, the reason we talk about potassium is because it can help with lowering blood pressure. Sometimes we hear so much about, oh, you've got to lower your sodium, you've got to lower your sodium intake, which is true, but it's also important to increase your potassium intake generally to help lower your blood pressure too. So keep that in mind, that when you're lowering your sodium, try to replace it with some of these good potassium sources. So most fruits and vegetables have at least some potassium in them. Other food groups like dairy and meat and others will have potassium too, but they're kind of higher concentrated here in the fruits and vegetables. So some of your higher potassium foods, bananas, Swiss chard, which is this nice colorful leafy green. It's got the different color like little stems on it, so it's kind of pretty looking. Spinach, Brussels sprouts again, artichokes again, avocado, potatoes, oranges, broccoli, and cantaloupe. So a lot of these that are high in fiber are also high in potassium, so kind of a good double bonus there. So again, just trying to get fruits and vegetables as often as you can. We're obviously talking about fresh fruits and vegetables right now, but if canned or frozen is more your style, those are fine too. And we're going to talk about both of those later on. All right, so we want to always get more healthy fats. So some of you might remember from the 90s or so when everything was fat-free, and that was thought to be what was good for heart disease, heart health. We're kind of shifting that the last several years or so. We want to get more healthy fats. That is our goal now. The healthy fats, the unsaturated fats, those can help raise our HDL, which is our good cholesterol. They can help lower our LDL, that's our bad cholesterol. So those are both the direction that we want our cholesterols to go. Healthy fats can also reduce inflammation in our body, which is important for heart disease also. So unsaturated fats is our goal. And these avocados are a really good source of those. And they're also, like I mentioned, a good source of fiber and potassium. I think one thing people have trouble with maybe is how to select an avocado sometimes. Sometimes it's too hard. Sometimes we get it and it's like way too mushy. And it seems like it does kind of turn in the blink of an eye sometimes. So I just recommend to kind of get, maybe get a darker one and a more green one, and hopefully throughout your week it'll last you. But when you're picking it up, you want to look for darker skin on the outside, and that'll be more ready to eat sooner. You want it to give just a little bit. If it's too mushy, then it's overripe and stuff like that. So just a little give when you pick your avocados. You can put avocados, on sandwiches, wraps, salads. You can mash it up, do a dip. A lot of people eat it on their toast, stuff like that now, or a sandwich spread. So lots of different ways you can work in your avocados. And then this is a really fun slide. These are some flavoring alternatives to salt. So these are some fresh flavors that we can use instead of the salt. We've got garlic, we've got fresh herbs, some ginger paste, citrus, so using the zest or the juice, and this is fresh ginger. So these are just going to really, really bring out some fresh flavors of your fruits and vegetables or your meats if you're doing marinades and things like that. So look for those. And a little bit goes a long way with a lot of these. So you can kind of stretch it out how much you're going to be using. All right, I know. So next we're in the meat department. So we'll get right to it because I don't want to run out of time. So with your beef, which one thing I hear a lot is, oh, my doctor told me to not eat red meat for my heart disease. And red meat, I mean, has been linked to heart disease and things like that, but I don't think you entirely need to cut it out. I think it's more of the types of the red meat that you're eating and also maybe the frequency. So lean cuts of beef, you want to look for your loin or your round cuts. Those are the two terms you want to look for. And so that's things like sirloin, top loin, eye of round, round roasts. So on this picture here, up in this corner, I've got top sirloin. This is a bottom round if you're doing roast. And then of course here we've got our ground beef for hamburger and stuff like that. And then serving size, we do want to keep that in mind. This definition of lean is based off of the 3-ounce serving, which I know is just that decacard size. So I mean, I know that's probably a lot smaller than a lot of people eat. So even just reducing, you know, if you're more of a 12-ounce kind of person, you know, gradually cutting it back down to 8 ounces or 6 ounces, and that does some improvements too. Fattier cuts of meat, you can see, hopefully you can see in this picture, just the differences right away with the marbling and the fat here. This one's a ribeye over here, and then this one is a chuck roast. So maybe more of a common, we might do a pot roast or something like that here. And then another, you know, people commonly buy 80% ground beef, just sometimes due to price, texture and stuff like that. But these are higher in saturated fat. So that's what we're trying to cut back, is the saturated fat, by making these leaner beef choices. All right, poultry. So boneless and skinless is what we want to go for. And you know, if you like to buy chicken that has a skin on it and then cook it, that's totally fine. Sometimes that's more budget friendly too. But I would recommend just to take off the skin before you eat it. So the skin is where more of the saturated fat is found. So poultry is not, you know, not totally free of saturated fat, but it's more in the skin. So that's why so many things are skinless. Dark meat versus light meat. I've found that it's not significantly different as far as the fat content. So a lot of times people tell me they like the dark meat being more tender and stuff like that. So that's fine. It's just trying to take off the skin, I think, will be your most helpful bet. And then with ground poultry, especially turkey, they do have different leanness values of the ground turkey also. So like this one, if you can see that, says 93% lean. There is a 97% lean, but then there is, if it doesn't have the 93 on it, it's probably like in the 80s or so. So I think it's important to choose the leaner turkeys as well, just like you would your ground beef to get your leaner types. And then some types of chicken does have lower sodium. Smart Chicken, Just Bare is a brand we have here at Hy-Vee, and then Hy-Vee True Chicken. So they don't add a lot of like the sodium solution and things like that to it when it's processed. And I truly can notice a difference when I'm cooking it. There's very little liquid that comes out when you're cooking it, if you've ever noticed that about your chicken. So you're really paying, you might pay a little bit more, but you're really paying for more meat and less, you're not paying for the water that's gonna come out too. And then pork, quickly, same kind of thing as your beef. You want to look for the loin and the round cuts. So tenderloins, pork loins, those center cut that are about a pound or a little over a pound, those are nice and lean. So that's a great option for pork. And then remember the fattier cuts of meat, bacon, ribs, blade chops and roasts, rib roasts, sausage and bratwurst, which are also high in sodium. So pork can kind of be a double whammy sometimes with the fat and the sodium. So really trying to watch some of those breakfast meats and things like that. All righty. Seafood department. So here we've got several types of seafood. You know, sometimes it comes frozen. You can get it fresh as well from our seafood case. So either one is fine. I mean, I think any seafood is better than avoiding it. Same kind of thing goes with, you know, wild caught over farm raised. I mean, if there's a choice, I would encourage wild caught, but again, if it's farm raised or no fish, I mean, I think the benefits that you're getting from the fish are going to be, outweigh anything bad about farm raised or anything like that. So seafood, the salmon and the tuna, trout, and sardines, if anybody enjoys those are our higher in omega-3 fats, fat fish, or we call them fatty fish. So you'll notice that those are more of like our colored fish. They have a pink color. The salmon is pink, the tuna is pinkish reddish. So that will indicate that there's a little more fat in it versus the white fish, tilapia, cod, things like that. So, which there's nothing wrong with those fish at all. They are super low in saturated fat. So that's a great benefit to them. They just don't have the omega-3 fats quite as high as the fatty fish does. But I do recommend trying to get seafood at least twice a week into your meal plan to get those heart healthy benefits. And if anyone likes to fish locally here in the lakes and things like that, that fish will be fine. Very lean, low in saturated fat also. I think the biggest thing that I run into with people is they prefer fried fish over baked or grilled. So keep your cooking method in mind of what's going to be a little bit healthier. So grilled or baked, or, you know, sauteed on your skillet, that's another good option. So, okay. I know I'm going kind of fast, but this time goes by fast. So I want to be mindful of that. So we're going to look into the center grocery aisles. And I know somehow over the years, it got to be a recommendation. Maybe you've heard, you know, shop the perimeter of the store, and that's where your healthiest foods will be. And that is true to some degree. I mean, you've got your fresh produce, you've got your fresh meat. So those are two great sections to shop in. But the center aisles do have some really wonderful things to offer as well. And one negative of sometimes of the perimeter is we put in some of our, you know, hot deals, impulse buys, and things like that we want you to, we want people to pick up. So it's not always the case that everything on the perimeter is a-okay. So just keep that in mind. So our first area in the center aisles is trying to find some more whole grains. So whole grains are going to give us more fiber and more antioxidants, more nutrients than white or refined type grains. So here you'll see several choices. I won't go through each of them, but we've got some cereals, some oats, some good breads, some quinoa, brown rice, and then even some snack foods are going to give us some healthy whole grains too. So what you're looking for when you're trying to find whole grains is looking on the ingredient listing, and the first ingredient you want it to say whole wheat or whole grain. The difference between that is if it says whole wheat, then obviously that's just wheat as the grain. Whole grain could be whole grain oats, whole grain rice, whole grain whatever the other type of grains are. So it could have more than one. Multigrain is not always indicating that it's a whole grain. Multigrain just means that there's more than one grain in there. So don't be fooled by that. When you're looking at whole grains, you want to look for at least 3 grams of fiber per serving. And then kind of check in the sodium content on some of these things. This rice right here, this packet is actually very low sodium. So it's one of the few things that you can pop in the microwave of these like ready rice packets that are low sodium. So check that out. Triscuits also have a hint of salt version. which is a really low sodium, 50 milligrams of sodium per serving. So that's one that I recommend to people all the time. And then anything without a pre-seasoned packet and stuff like that should be pretty low sodium. All right, canned items. So canned items are not off the table either, because I'm seeing so many more and more low sodium, no salt added varieties of these foods. So this one is a no salt added beans. So lots of bean varieties are no salt added. Diced tomatoes, tomato products, tomato sauce, those all have a no salt added. And then our canned vegetables too, corn, green beans, some of the peas, I think too. So those should have a no salt added option too. So if you're a canned person, I'm totally fine. Just look for these no salt added versions and that will be great. Sometimes things say reduced sodium. That doesn't always mean that it's going to be classified as low sodium. A low sodium food is 140 milligrams or less per serving. So reduced sodium means it's just been reduced from the original version, which, hey, I mean, if we can reduce it any, that's great. It just might still be higher than what you're looking for. So double check that. All right. Oh, and I know we're getting kind of long on time. So just let me know if we need to kind of wrap it up, but I'll keep going. Some cooking staples. We've got some broths that are no salt added or unsalted. A sodium-free bouillon if you would rather use the bouillon in making soups and things like that. Williams chili seasoning is a no salt added option, which I really love. And then we've got several Mrs. Dash products. You guys are probably familiar with her seasonings, but then there's also some of these packets. There's some marinades and things like that that are all salt-free. And then coconut aminos is an alternate to soy sauce. So soy sauce, as you may have seen, can be quite high in sodium. So this is a really good alternate. It's got 90 milligrams per teaspoon of sodium versus 370 of in the soy sauce. It's a little sweeter than a soy sauce would be, but you still get that Asian flavor, and it's really good. So definitely recommend that. And nuts and seeds. So these are more of our heart healthy unsaturated fats. So we've got flaxseed, chia seed, kind of a newer one. And it's not new, but I'm seeing it used more, these hemp seeds. So all those are high in omega-3 fats, high in fiber. They also offer some plant protein. And then down in the nut line, we've got walnuts, almonds, pistachios. So walnuts are the highest in omega-3 fats, which, if I haven't mentioned, is a great heart healthy fat for reducing inflammation. So that's why we focus on omega-3 fats a lot of the time. So walnuts are the highest. The other ones are all great options too, though. And then lentils, real quick. I'm just seeing a lot more lentil products, so I wanted to show you some of these. The benefits of lentils: higher fiber. It's a plant-based protein, so you can get some protein at your meal and maybe use less meat as well. So lots of lentil pastas. Benitos are a chip made out of beans, so you get a little fiber and protein if you're going to have some chips. And then these are some crunchy snacks. They're kind of crunchy beans that if you're a crunchy person, they're great to snack on. Okay, frozen. We'll go through that super fast. Fruits and vegetables, nutrients are the same as fresh. They're great shortcuts for meals, doing a quick stir fry, or popping something in the microwave and boom, your dinner's ready. So no, no excuses if you're short on time. You've got lots of choices here in the frozen vegetable department. And then this is a new one. This is a new one. They're roasting vegetables. So if you don't want to steam them or microwave them, you can actually roast those in the oven and the texture comes out real nice. Sometimes with frozen stuff, you're not sure how the texture is going to turn out, but it's really good and easy. It's already cut up for you. Okay, so lastly, we've made it through some of the big sections of the store. You know, there's tons more we could have talked about, but those are definitely the highlights. So what's next? So some goals for creating healthy meals, and how to kind of work those into your everyday life. Aim to eat seafood at least twice per week. Try to plan one meatless meal per week. It's kind of a trend the last few years or so. You can swap meats for plant-based proteins. And that's just an overall way to cut back on your meat consumption, which would cut back on your saturated fat intake. And you're replacing it with your fiber and your plant-based proteins and things like that. Including a whole grain at 2 out of 3 meals, just as a way to get the majority of your grains being whole. And then trying to have a healthy fat source at each meal. So whether that's avocado or nuts or some seeds or some kind of oil or something like that. And then fruit and veggie goals, I kind of made it into 3, you know, a starter goal, just trying to have a fruit or veggie with each meal. A little serving of one or the other every time you have breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You know, it doesn't have to be a specific serving size or an amount or anything like that, but you're just getting in the habit of having those more often through your day. A little bit bigger goal, aiming for half your plate full of vegetables at your meals. So that, you know, that's making that goal a little bit bigger because it's taking up more on your plate, more larger serving of that too. And then a very specific goal is aiming for the 5 to 9 servings of fruit and vegetables per day, which sounds like a lot, but keep in mind that a serving can be as little as half a cup. So I think it adds up more quickly than we think. You've also got snacks that you can eat fruits or vegetables at to help meet your servings and stuff like that too. So, all right. So hopefully we're not too far over. If there's any questions in there, I'm happy to answer them. And just, you know, trying to plan your menu out can be helpful. So that way you buy what you're going to eat. You have a plan for what you buy. We don't end up wasting stuff and throwing it away. You can kind of map out when you're gonna, you know, get your 2 servings of seafood and stuff like that. So use the ads to find what's on sale, especially in meat and seafood and produce. That can be super helpful in staying on budget also. So.
Adrienne, that was great. Thank you. We do have a question for you.
Okay.
Okay, so the question is, what is the best cooking oil? Avocado, coconut? I heard canola oil is not as good as the first 2 listed.
Yes, so oil was one of the sections that I realized I didn't cover when I made this presentation, and it is an important one. Avocado oil is kind of a newer oil being used or just becoming more common, and I think it's a good healthy fat oil. Olive oil is also healthy fats, unsaturated fats. I know coconut oil kind of boomed over the last few years. You know, to me, and if you've ever seen it, you know that it's solid in the jar there. So it is technically a saturated fat. I know there's some discussion on, you know, it's a plant-based saturated fat versus the meat saturated fat. But I still kind of, I mean, I still don't really recommend coconut oil for like everything you're cooking with. And that's the thing with the oils. It doesn't have to be one that you use for everything. You can use coconut oil. Sometimes you can use the olive oil and the avocado oil, you know, if you're doing stir fry or roasting or things like that. So it's not just one and that's you only can use one. You also get different flavors from some of the oils too. So that can be a factor in what you might choose. But anyway, in summary, I would say trying to lean more towards the olive oil and the avocado oil more of the time.
Okay, do we have any more questions for Adrienne?
All right. And one last thing I just wanted to say, it's what you do the majority of the time that, you know, helps you go with a healthy lifestyle. You don't have to be 100% on everything. So just kind of keep everything in perspective with your food choices. And if you're trying most of the time to eat heart healthy, it's going to make a big difference. But if don't feel like you have to be perfect all the time. And I think you're going to take small steps towards improving your health if you're doing it most of the time. So
That is great advice. I know sometimes it can seem like such a daunting task when you try to hit it 100% of the time.
yes, exactly. So
So, okay. Well, guys, we are going to end. I will be sending out a recording of this so that you can share it with your friends. If you have any questions, please go ahead and reach out to me, or you can go and visit Adrienne. Um, Other than that, Adrienne, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
thank you for having me.
All right, guys, have a good evening.